Hey, everybody. Welcome to WarKry Radio. Go Be Great podcast. I am Karina Calhoun, your mindset and life coach. And I have a special guest on the show today. So, Rondelle, tell us who you are, where you're from. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Hey, everybody, and thank you for having me, Karina. I'm just honored to be here. My name is Rondelle Martin, and I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I grew up primarily in Prince George's County, even spent many years in Virginia, lived in Pennsylvania, Virginia, before my family moved to Atlanta. So now I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been here for just about a year and a half, roughly.
Wow, awesome, awesome. And so your home place is not far from where I am. I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, yeah.
So that's really awesome. Yes, you're right up the road from us, or where you're from is right up the road from us. Awesome, awesome. So Rondelle, tell me about your business. I just want to let the audience know, listen, you know how you're scrolling through Instagram and some of the stuff you're like, let me hurry up and scroll by because it's just like you can tell it's regurgitated information. It's just like they didn't really put very much thought into it. But I scrolled by and I saw one of your posts and I said, oh, that's interesting. And so I parked right there for a little while. And then I said, okay, this is really good stuff. And then I saw another post and I said, okay, she's killing it out here. And I love the fact that, and I'm gonna give you a moment to tell us what you do, what you offer, what services and products you offer. But I just want to congratulate you. I want to honor you and say thank you because you actually get it with giving away content, with giving away value. That is so very important. And I think people don't really understand that. So I'm going to get into that in a few minutes, but I want you to tell us what services and products do you offer?
Absolutely. Thank you for that too. I always am just like so flattered. I'm like such a
Yes.
like introvert when it comes to receiving compliments. I'm like, oh, I'm blushing, but thank you. Thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
So with the products I offer and the services, right now I am offering one-on-one coaching and strategy calls for women who are either aspiring to be coaches or create a paid online community, like a membership site of sorts, or who are needing help with their content. So like an IG type of audience, because IG is my baby. I love Instagram. I know it inside out. I'm pretty familiar with Facebook and YouTube as well, so I could give some pointers with that. And just people who might want just like maybe they have a coaching program or they're already kind of in a mentorship program, but it's kind of not structured. It's not generating the income they want. So that's what the calls are for. My signature program, I'm actually working on the 2.0 version of that because that launched in September of last year. And it's crazy because I just got like a revelation in my prayer and devotional time that I was to coach months before. And then it's like all these people were placed in my life. And it was like, yeah, like you're going to coach, you're going to have this, you're going to have that. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
I hear you, God. Like,
Yes.
So I started it. It was really just a leap of faith. And I invested in a coach and she helped me kind of put the nuts and bolts together and stuff. And then I was able to take it from there. And I learned a lot. And so with that, I was like, okay, after I get to a certain amount of clients, I'm going to go ahead and put that on the shelf so I can finish working with them, which I'm doing now. And then I'm going to modify it and enhance it. So that's going to be launching in the spring. And that is currently a 12-week one-on-one program. But it's going to be a 16-week group coaching program that takes women through A to Z on how to create the coaching business. So by the time they're done with me, they'll be able to be making 4 to 5 figures a month with that coaching structure. So everything you need to know is going to teach you. And then I'm also working on launching my own membership site because as I was coaching, I realized as I was talking to women and stuff, some of them are just not at that point where they can invest in a group coaching, but I still want to help them because at the end of the day, it's really about helping women create purpose-driven businesses. So I was like, okay, a membership group will allow them to be able to afford it, but still get the tools that they need and the camaraderie and the sisterhood. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm sorry. I'm just being all out of order over here. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited.
I'm really excited. It's a lot of stuff in the works. So by the time like April, May comes, it's going to be a lot of stuff just coming back out that I took the time to just kind of take off the shelf and refine it.
I love this. Listen, you said so much in just that little bit. So, first of all, when you launch in the spring, please, please, please keep us in mind. I would love to have you back on so that we can make sure we get that information out there so that we're able to get the folks that need this service, get
Yeah.
them on board with you, because this is so very, very needed. You know, I and I tell people, I am a life coach. I am a mindset coach, but I still need a coach. Every coach
Mhm.
still needs a coach. So
Yes.
you can't go it alone. You can't think that you're going to have all of the answers. You need a
Mhm.
coach for almost everything. So I am really excited to hear this, and the fact that, like I said, you have so much value that you have been giving. It is like, oh my goodness. I look at your page and I'm like, okay, let me just take a deep breath. So I've had folks tell me, well, Karina, I think you give out too much value because, and I'm like, let me just stop you there. Okay. So when you have a true marketing plan, the information that you have that you can give away. That
Mhm.
is completely separate from your package, because your
Yes.
package is going to have something completely different in it. All of it
Mhm.
just gels together because
Yep.
that's your niche. And I think
Mhm.
people don't really understand that you have to be willing to give something away. You're not giving away your
Yeah.
signature program. You're
Right.
not giving away the in-depth nuts and bolts of it. There's just some
Mhm.
things, if you are really invested in your craft, there are some things that some information that that you can give. You can just give it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I kind of see it like I view my social media as like the spider web. Like you're coming to my corner of the internet, you see my content, I got you in my web, but now I got to take you through the sales funnel. So that's where
Exactly.
all of that stuff comes to play. But also the social media for me, or the marketing, is just I'm telling you what you need. Like this is what you need. And I'm going to explain why you need it. Now, if you want the how, that's where the
Right.
products come into play. That's when I really sit and hold your hand and give it all to you. But trust me, I absolutely hate it when people don't give value, because at the end of the day, it's like if I just see you on Instagram or Facebook, and social media is moving so fast. And what you told me, it's like, okay, like you said earlier, you're just regurgitating what other people say.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like you just did a quick Google search and copied and pasted it. Like, I'm not gonna want to follow you anymore because it's like I already knew that. Like, okay, whatever. But if you really catch my attention, or you give me another perspective to something I already knew, then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, let me sit and actually see what this person's talking about. Then I'm going to be intrigued. And then I'm going to be like, let me see what services they offer. Let me see if they got an ebook or a course coming out, or, just something that I can
Yes.
learn from.
Yes, absolutely. Because, and I think about this. I actually heard this recently, where when you go to the mall, or, when we used to be able to go to the mall, and I don't know if they still do this, but if you go by the pretzel shop, they're going to give you a piece of a pretzel for you to, taste it, feel like if you like it, and then come on in and buy more. It's the same
Mhm.
idea. If you go by an ice cream shop, they're going to give you a little cup, a little taste, so you can decide if this is something that I want. So it's the same concept.
Yep.
When you go, and even something more, a little bit more tangible. If you go to a shoe store, they're not going to give you a shoe, of course, but you're able to try that shoe on to
Yes.
see if it's something that you like. So if you're not giving value to your potential consumers, because at the end of the day, you want customers to turn into consumers.
Yes.
You want clients to turn into consumers, where everything that you have, they're grabbing a hold to that.
Mhm.
And so you don't want to just have that one and done type situation.
Right.
So I absolutely y'all listen, go to her page. I'm telling you, go to her page. You are going to be astonished, and you will be able to tell the difference in the integrity behind her page. Oh my goodness, I love it. So tell us how you got started in this particular line of work.
Yeah, so like I had mentioned earlier, last year I was in my prayer and devotional time, and I just kept getting this drop in my spirit, like you're gonna coach, you're gonna coach, you're gonna coach. And at the time, I was doing content creation full time, so just YouTube videos, working on brand campaigns, that kind of thing, and my own stuff on the side. So I'm thinking, well, a lot of people ask me for social media advice. Maybe I'm just gonna be a social media coach. So I started offering like one-off services, and I got a few people well. But I was like, this doesn't seem like it. Like, I feel like there's more. So I didn't continue with it. I kind of just focused on sharing freebies on my page and on my mailing list and stuff. And then in June, actually, of last year, I did an interview with a nonprofit organization in Miami. And the founder of that organization, while we were doing the prerequisites and stuff, she was like, I don't know why I feel led to tell you this, but something big is coming down the pike for you, and you need to coach women, and you need to coach women to do this and that and the third. And that is exactly what dropped in my spirit like 4 months before. So I was like, okay, like I took my notebook out, I'm writing notes, because I'm like, at this point, this is like divine intervention. So I need to write this down. Then I started looking up just how to do it. And then my coach approached me, and she was kind of like rolling off her signature program. And so she was like, yeah, I could work with you in this way, that way, the third. So we made a little agreement for short-term coaching. And then I was like, yeah, this is it. And, for me, the type of coaching I do, which is, I call it purpose business coaching, just to really help women identify their purpose. And if they know it, then to help them monetize it. But either way, I'm gonna help you monetize it. And I'm really passionate about that, because for years, I knew I had a purpose in life. I knew there was a calling over my life, but I was just like, how can I bridge the gap between my purpose and calling and what I was created for and actually making money? There's so many people that are working a career that has absolutely nothing to do with their gifts, their passions, their purpose, nothing. They're miserable, and they end up sitting on their purpose. And so I knew I wanted to do something like that. And I just took that sentiment and I created the program that I created. So that's pretty much how I got into it. And once I did it, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely it for me. Like, this is it. I know I'm gifted in this area. I'm gifted to teach. I'm gifted to shepherd. So I know that this is it. I know this is my purpose.
You just said something that really strikes interest. You said that you're gifted to shepherd. And I have someone that I spoke with recently, and she's actually one of my clients, and she took a spiritual gifts assessment, and it said shepherd slash pastor. And she said, and you can see, even though we were not on video, I could see her just going like this, like, oh my God, where did this come from? And I expressed to her that just because it says that doesn't mean you're going to be in a pulpit with your staff and your rod and preaching. That's not always what that means, but you can shepherd a group of women, because that's what she's actually venturing out to do now, and is actually really doing it very well. But when you begin to do that, that is the same as shepherding. You're leading people. So talk a little bit about that, because there are some people, they feel a pull, they feel a tug, they know that God is calling them to do a specific thing, but it's like so out of the box and so out of the norm. And the fact that you use that terminology in business, I absolutely love that, because I do too. And I want people to really understand that your gifts and your callings are not just inside of the four walls of church. It is wherever you plant your feet. So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Like, God, he created us for a purpose. And like you said, we can use it in the church for sure, but you can impact so many more people outside of just that one church building. And he created you for that reason, because there's certain people that it could be a million people that come before you and say the same thing, but it's not going to resonate with them. But you come and you say it, it's like, oh my gosh, it clicks, And I think a lot of times we get scared to do it, and we get fearful, because when we're being called to do something, God doesn't work in our constraints. He's not like, okay, I know that you can handle this, I'm gonna give you that. He's like, no, I need you to think bigger. Like, we're going big with this. We're going to impact. So it's scary, because you're thinking, how in the world am I going to accomplish all of this? How am I going to manage people? How am I going to go and speak in front of thousands of women or hundreds of women? But it's like, everything that you need is already inside of you. He just wants to see your faith. He wants to see you walk it out and to believe like, okay, if you call me to it, like, I know I'm already equipped. So I'm gonna go out here, and I know you're not gonna have me looking crazy. So, so I'm gonna step out on faith, and I'm going to make this move, and he will not fail you. Like, my life, ever since we were getting ready to move to Atlanta, has been an extreme faith move. Moving
Yes.
here, how everything happened, long story short, my family ended up homeless for almost 2 months with
Wow.
unforeseen circumstances and just a lot of like betrayal and stuff, unfortunately. But within that 2 months, I started working on my gifts. I was like, okay, I'm homeless in a new city. What am I talented in? What comes naturally to me? How can I get some money in here while I'm working the Uber Eats, while I'm doing the DoorDash stuff?
Yes.
And God started opening doors for me. And I was featured in magazines. I was featured on
Wow.
various publications and platforms. And it just became this snowball effect, all because of faith. And, I could have easily gotten here and been like, oh, this is not what I expected. I'm going back to Spotsylvania, Virginia. Like, I'm not staying
Yes.
here, but I knew he called me to
Right.
kind of make sense. And so that's just like a proper, like a very proper and vivid example of what a faith walk looks like. Everybody was like, what in the world? What are you doing? Like, just come back to Virginia. It don't make sense. I was like, no, God called me here for a reason. So I'm going to stay. And after that 2 months, we got in this home with no income, like zero
Wow.
income. And it's just been snowball, snowball, snowball. So it's the same thing with business. If you take that step, and you just go out there, he will provide. Because the day that I launched Her Profit on Purpose, my signature program, I signed my first client on launch day. Like, I didn't even do a
Wow.
proper presentation or anything. I was just like, hey, it's open for business, And I gave her
Wow.
a little quick snippet. She was like, where can I sign up? So if you move in that power, like, there's nothing you can't do. You just gotta trust that you won't fail, you won't fall.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And our stories are very similar. And I'll talk about that in a minute because I think this is just because this has come up in this particular episode. I think we need to touch on this because someone needs to hear this. But, one of the things that I do want to bring out is the fact that we are celebrating Women's History Month. And we know that women's history is based on women's suffrage and all of those things. And that's great. That's wonderful. It's women's history. But I wanted to be able to just really outline, pinpoint, just show women who are making history now. And Rondelle, you are one of those women. And I want to applaud you for that. You are making history for someone else down the road. And that is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so very much for that. You're leading the way for so many people that may not even know your name right now. Today, they may not know your name, but they will. And it's, and that is what's so exciting for me, and so you talked about moving to Atlanta and then becoming homeless for 2 months after that. And you talk about that faith walk. It is so imperative that we have that faith walk. It's not just for a few things. It's not just for some things. It's not just some areas. When I moved, my daughter and I, at the time, it was just she and I. She was a young girl. She's 23 now. She'll be 24 this year. But she and I moved to Richmond from North Carolina. And God kept telling me Genesis 12. And I'm like, what are you saying? And he said, leave your family. Go to a
Mm,
land that I will show you, a
yes.
land of milk and honey. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so I was in the midst of a separation at the time with my
Mm,
ex-husband. And so I'm like, you really want me to leave? I mean, we were already on the outs, and I'm thinking this is
mm,
just not going to make it any better.
yeah,
And so I'm being transparent, family, because I want y'all to hear this. Faith will get you where you need to be. And
yes.
so my daughter and I, we moved here, and in essence, we were homeless as well. We stayed with family, or so-called family. That was a betrayal situation as well.
Mm,
And so, the house that I left there, I ended up early on moving to Richmond. I lost my home that
mm,
was in North Carolina. I lost it to foreclosure. I lost several vehicles to repossession. I lost everything,
mm,
literally everything. But when God said, go to a land that I will show you, a land of milk and
yes.
honey, you have to understand, milk and honey, you're not going to work for that. Okay.
Mm,
There's no killing, no blood in that. Okay.
yes.
Milk and honey. And so I can say that now here we are, 10, 11, 12 years later, and I'm now married to my best friend, a true man
Mm,
of God. We
yes.
have multiple properties. We have,
Mm,
our vehicles are almost paid for, close to being paid for. And
wow.
so we are in such a great space now. And it's not all about the material things by no stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But when God made that promise, he
Yes.
promised,
Yep.
you know? And so
Yep.
that is what I stood on. And I tell people, what are you standing 10 toes down in? What
Yes.
is it? And so when you
Yes.
can stand 10 toes down in what he says,
Mm-hmm.
listen. And so, and I'm going to be very transparent. You are also being on this episode, you are part of a promise, that he made. He said, go and expand, go
Yes.
and gather them. And so when I reached out to you, you are a part of that.
Yes.
And so I am so thankful for this interaction, because this is really going to help people. So
It will.
Rondelle, if someone wanted to reach out to you today to set up an appointment or a booking, whatever, however you do it, what is the process? How do they get in touch with you? Give us that information, and then walk us through the process of what would then happen.
Absolutely. So they can reach me one of two ways. They can either send an email to coachrondelle@gmail.com and put their inquiry in there, and I will send them my booking calendar for discovery call or to book the one-on-one coaching call or anything like that. Or they can find me on Instagram if they want to just kind of like observe and soak in some information first and just kind of get to know me on a personal level first. Then follow me on Instagram at Rondelle Martin, just my first last name, no space, no underscore, anything. And once they do that, and let's say, for example, that they're interested in the one-on-one coaching and strategy call. So if they go ahead, they send me an email, they're like, hey, I heard about this service, I'm interested in it. Then I would respond back, introduce myself, just give them the link to book. And then I would explain briefly what the call includes, which typically the calls, it says 90 minutes, but honestly, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, it's 90 minutes, gotta go. Like if I'm in the middle of a thought, I don't care if it ends up being, 120 minutes or whatever. Like we're gonna get it done to make sure that you're good and you're thorough. As long as you got time, as long as I got time, we're gonna stay and we're gonna finish it. So they get the
Yes.
90-minute call, they get their specific resources. And so it's not a one size fits all out of the box type of service. Like the only thing that everybody gets are like best tips for social media and like one other document that I can't remember off the top of my head that I just send to everybody because I'm like, hey, it's good to know. But other than that, everybody gets what they specifically need. So one of my clients, for instance, she got a sales page layout template, like workbook that I created. I gave her that. I gave her some other resources because she was in a different part of her entrepreneurship journey. Another one, it was more so like IG audit type documents I gave to her. Another one, it was very like foundational, the customer avatar workbook, the like bio and your positioning statement workbook and things like that. So I listen to what they need, and I have enough resources in my library, even though it's not open on the shelf for sale, where I'm like, okay, well, you booked the call, like I can give it to you. So once I know what you need, you're gonna get what you need. And then everybody gets the call recording, so that way you can listen to it as many times as you want, play it back, because there's nothing worse than when you book a call or something, you're like, dang, what did they say? And you can't
Right.
remember it. So that's what the calls look like. And so once that's done, then they would just get the resources that I promised them in the call, and they would get the link to a feedback and testimonial survey. And then that's that. And if they want to continue working with me, then we could keep up that conversation where I could let you know when the group coaching launches, or we could work out like a specific one-on-one coaching for you that's designed for what you need. So that's typically what the journey looks like. It's really straightforward, really to the point. Now, when the coaching launches again, that's more so like, a longer journey. Like we get on a discovery call and I figure out if we're a good fit, because I don't want to
Hmm.
waste your time and I definitely don't want to waste
Right.
your time and I don't
Right.
want to waste your money. So if it's a good fit, then we go off the discovery call and I, send you a follow-up email and you get all the information that you need to know, like, okay, this is what I would need from you to be able to continue in the program. And then you'll get like the contract and, you'll make your deposit and all of that fun stuff to begin in the program.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And as those that normally rock with me know, I will have all of the clickable links in the show notes. So if you didn't catch any of it or you caught only some of it, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. It is in the show notes. So Rondelle, I want to just kind of go back a little bit. And this has just been so good. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that when you said when you moved to Atlanta and some things began to go awry, you had family telling you just move back. I had the same thing happen to me. I mean, I had folks that had initially said, well, God is saying, for you to go. They were basically confirming what I had already heard myself. But then when
Mm,
things got really hard, those same people said, oh, no, you need to come back. I'm like,
mm.
wait, you're vacillating. You're not a fan. You're not supposed to
Okay.
be vacillating like that. What do you mean? What you hear God? I
Okay.
heard I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut up. It just was like, are you serious right now? And so I had to tune a lot of these people out who were, they had proven track records. I consider them very valuable, but I had to at some point tune them out because I had to be focused. I could not look to the left or right. I had to be laser focused on everything that God had told me to do. So talk a little bit about that, because you being a coach, I know that sometimes you can probably see when your clients may try to, well, let me look over here, and you got to
Mhm.
listen, let's regain focus. So talk a little bit about that and how you are able to really pinpoint when someone is doing that and get them back on track.
Yeah, like the worst thing you could do is look to the left or the right. Like when you're driving a car, you got to look straight ahead, because if you look too
Yes.
much to either side, you're going to crash, you're going to derail, you know? And so I think when I start to notice it, I like to form a camaraderie with my clients. So I really see them as like my sisters, you know? And everybody that knows me knows that I am a straight shooter with tact. I'm never going to be disrespectful or anything like that.
Yes.
But I'm gonna tell you how it is and how it needs to be said, just like I would with my own sister, you know, because I really care
Hmm.
about their well-being. And so when I start to see them maybe get consumed with like wanting to drink from the fire hose, because that can happen. Sometimes you get really enthusiastic. You're like, oh my goodness, I need to learn from everybody, like at the same time. And it's like you can
Right.
end up overwhelming yourself. Like, you hired me, let me guide you through this process. And then once we're done with this cycle, if you want to say, okay, I want to go and get coaching from this person or whatever, that's fine. Like, or if you can afford to do both, that's fine. But if you know you're going to be divided in your attention and it's going to cause confusion, you can't build with confusion. Like, you have to have tunnel
Yes.
vision. You
Woo,
you
that's
have to know
good.
what your goal is for that time, because maybe your goal right now is not to launch a 5-figure program, you know, or a 4-figure program. Maybe your goal is just to do the market research, gather the knowledge, maybe do some beta testing behind the scenes, that kind of thing. But maybe it's not your season to just up and go, you know, but maybe it is your season to up and go. But even when it's your season to up and go, what are you up and going to? Like, what are we doing
Yes.
in this quarter? What are we doing in this, half of the year or in this year? Like, you can't do it all at the same time. So I found
Yes.
myself kind of bringing them back to the focus, because a lot of them, it's more so the enthusiasm of, I just got to learn it all right now. They're really studious, which I love because they're ready to learn, but you can end up just being all over the place, like a mosquito to the
Hmm.
light. And then you don't know what you're doing, and then you're confusing yourself because you came in with a good plan, but now you see that someone else is doing it this way and they're getting success, and then someone else is doing it that way and they're getting success. So,
Yes.
okay, maybe I should copy them. No, you're your own person. Like, there's nobody else like you. There will never be another you. So you need to do it like you. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
Absolutely. I absolutely love it. So, Rondelle, before we close out, I'd like for you to just kind of think for a moment. What is it that you would say to the women entrepreneurs today as we're celebrating Women's History Month? What would you like to say to women? And I don't want to direct it if it's encouragement, if it's kind of like a slap on the wrist, because I feel like you come from a integral place, a place of goodness, of purity. So with that being said, even if it is like, hey, let's redirect, let's get back on track, whatever it is, what's on your heart to say to women entrepreneurs right now?
I would say, a couple things. So the first thing I would say is really tap into who you are. Like, get away from the facade of what you think you need to show up as, particularly in service-based businesses, like a coach, a mentor, a consultant, whatever. Don't try to show up like what you think the world needs. Show up exactly like how you are, because that's your superpower. A lot of times we want to walk
Yes.
ourselves down and we want to be like, okay, let me be boxy or sound like this. No, if you are vibrant, be vibrant. If you are a straight shooter, be a straight shooter. If you are very poised and, preppy and all of that, like, be that. But tap into yourself, and that comes from self-love, because you can never be
Hmm.
comfortable being yourself if you don't really love yourself and really love who you are and accept that. So let's be more authentic for sure. Like, the more we're
Yes.
authentic, the better we can be. And I would say, and I'm going to direct this particularly to the women of color, let's
Hmm.
really hold our sisters up. Let's really hold our
Yes.
sisters up and really lock arms and genuinely support. Like, even if you are in the same industry, if you're both coaches, maybe there's something that you can buy from your sister, and there's something she can buy from you, and you guys can support each other, collaborate, bring each other on your platforms, promote each other. Because when we push each other, it just helps the community overall, and it shows other women like, okay, they have a real sisterhood, like they really want to see each other win. And that's going to help you succeed, because when you pour into somebody else, is going to come back to you tenfold. Like, I'm a huge believer in that and a witness to that. And I would also just say, don't give up. Like, even if
Yes.
it doesn't look like it's making any sort of sense right now, if you feel like no one's going to listen to you, trust and believe someone's listening. Because I've had people book me and I'm like, you follow me? Like, can I didn't
Yes.
follow me at all, but I just get like a notification that they bought a service and a call, and I'm like, oh wow, okay. So you never know who's watching, but keep showing up, keep serving, keep sharing, keep giving knowledge, because they are watching. And if you keep serving and sharing and pouring into them, the time will come where they will book with you. But if you don't show up and you're not diligent, then over time they're not gonna believe in you. So you have to believe in
Right.
yourself enough, even if no one's applauding you or patting you on the back.
Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love it. Well, Rondelle, thank you so very much for gracing us with your presence and really, I think this episode has been something that has truly been needed here on WarKry Radio. Go Be Great. We needed to hear, really activate your faith. Honestly, that's what I feel like
Yes.
it's been about. Activate your faith, not just in business, but in your life, not just in your life, but in business, and have
Yes.
that sure foundation in business. We are
Mhm.
to move in excellence at all times. And
Yeah.
so this has really been really something that is should get us on track, get us back on track for those of us that may have been off track. And thank you so very much. And I look forward to you coming back when
Yes.
your program drops so that we can get that information out. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the history that you've already made, the history that you will continue to make. And we need you. That's just the short and sweet of it. We need you out here in these entrepreneurial streets. We need folks like you who are straight shooters, who are honest, but have sure integrity behind them. So thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. And I definitely will be in touch about the products launching in spring.
Absolutely. So thank you, folks. And I will see you all on the flip side.